So I'd like to say again, welcome, good afternoon. This webinar is being recorded. Your phone line is muted. Please use the Q&A box for any questions that you might have throughout our webinar. My name is Leslie Gabe-Swanston. I'm the Director of Program and Systems Quality at the National Summer Learning Association. Just a quick overview of our webinar today. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about NSLA and our Common Grounds peer groups. And then we're going to hear from Marby Shaw. She is the manager of Camp Good Sam. And then we'll have some question and answers. As I said, as we're going along, please type your questions into the Q&A box. We will either respond in the text box or you'll get a message saying that your question will be asked and answered live. Please try to use the Q&A box and not the chat box. So a little bit about NSLA. The National Summer Learning Association is the only national nonprofit exclusively focused on closing the achievement gap by increasing access to high-quality summer learning opportunities. NSLA's goal is to increase nationwide the number of high-quality summer learning programs designed to close the achievement gap. To achieve this goal, we recognize and disseminate what works, offer expertise and support for programs and communities, and advocate for summer learning as a solution for equity and excellence in education. NSLA's work is driven by the belief that all children and youth deserve high-quality summer learning experiences that will help them succeed in college, career, and life. Core to our work is the recognition that high-quality summer learning works. High-quality summer learning programs have been shown to improve reading and math skills, school attachment, motivation, and relationships with adults and peers. So we believe that summer matters. We believe that summer provides youth extensive opportunities for growth and learning that may not be possible during the school year due to various constraints. It provides support for working families who need to have safe, healthy places and activities for their kids when school is not in session. It can help end the transition period between grades, especially for our very young kids who are just entering school and need to get used to the routine of being in a structured program, for students who are transitioning into middle school or high school, and for students who have just graduated high school but need that extra support to make sure they complete the transition to college. Summer offers significant opportunities for programs and communities to explore new partnerships they might not have thought of before or had time to pursue. And finally, without some of the constraints of the school year, it can be a time of innovation and experimentation for both youth and programs. So a little bit about Common Grounds. This webinar is part of NSLA's Common Grounds network. Common Grounds is a series of peer learning groups we created to help you better connect with your peers who are working in the same areas. These affinity groups, currently we have 4, one for early literacy, middle grades and older youth, system building, and policy. These groups are an intersection of our program and systems quality work. It's a way for us to continue to disseminate and generate awareness in these areas and demand by offering strong interest-based content. Maybe you've been a part of a PLC before, a peer learning community. It's not quite as intensive as that, but if you're part of say, grade level reading, you might be familiar with just kind of connecting with your peers, sharing topic areas and ideas. And we hope that these affinity groups will provide regular briefs on relevant research, best practices, and program spotlights. So I'd like to introduce Marby Shaw. Marby is the manager of Camp Good Sam. They operate 6 sites across South Texas. I had the pleasure of meeting Marby when I went out to their San Antonio site last summer as part of the final stage of our Excellence in Summer Learning Awards process. Camp Good Sam was selected as our 2017 Excellence Award winner. In thinking about best examples of planning for literacy in summer programs, I knew that I wanted to have Marby share how they are able to accomplish this with their program. Originally from the Texas border town of Brownsville, Marby has always known the importance of community and culture. At an early age, she bore witness to the uniqueness of living between two worlds, with many relatives living between Mexico and the United States. She received her bachelor's degree in criminology from St. Mary's University in San Antonio, Texas, where she was exposed to the significance of service to others. Shortly after, she began working for AmeriCorps and the Cesar Chavez Foundation, and later began her tenure at Good Samaritan Community Services. Marby, now a mother of toddler twin girls, is completing her master's degree from Our Lady of the Lake University with a concentration in organizational leadership, and has grown in her role at Good Sam as the Camp Good Sam manager, a role where she oversees 6 campsites and the execution of last year's award-winning camp. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Marby. And Marby, you might still be muted. Marby, I think we're having a little difficulty hearing you. See if you're muted.
Hello?
Okay, ma'am, yeah. Yep,
yes.
I can hear you.
Okay, great. It was giving me a hard time. Okay, great. So I'm Marby Shaw. I'm the Camp Good Sam program manager. And as Leslie mentioned, here at Camp Good Sam, we know how important summer learning is for all of our youth, whether it's in Texas, whether it's in California, New York, Montana, anywhere. And so Camp Good Sam, when presenting incorporating literacy into your summer program, I was delighted because Camp Good Sam has done a great job, which I think, but a great job with finding ways to incorporate literacy, because it's not something that our kids are very excited about, but they can be and they can grow to be. So okay, great. So here at Camp Good Sam, our community center has been around for many, many years, and we've done summer programs. But in the early 2010s, my director and other of our staff had determined, okay, we need to do a better job of how to address summer slight. We knew that through NSLA, we learned that, we need high quality summer programs for multiple years. So we thought about, let's recreate our summer program, and what would that look like? We became intentional in learning modules and curriculum, and develop a theme. What was a theme that would resonate with kids, that would resonate with staff, and we can kind of do disguised learning for our kiddos. And so what would be that theme? And so we came up with a comprehensive community plan, and we developed what we have Camp Good Sam. We determined that themes that we could use was, in fact, reading, right? Junior novels. And so our program goal, using industry research and recommended best practices, Camp Good Sam has been designed to address summer learning loss by providing youth a safe place to learn and have fun. Safe place is very important, as our youth constantly need somewhere to go and to feel safe during the summer months when their parents might be working, where they need somewhere to not just have fun and play and learn, but eat and feel secure. So with that, we our youth department and we have our 5 pillars of service that we are strong about. So we support educational achievement, we encourage healthy decisions, explore college and career pathways, develop leaders, and we engage families. And all of this is very apparent in our Camp Good Sam. And so just so if you're wondering, well, where in Texas is this? We're in South Texas. We're based out of San Antonio, but we do have 6 summer campsites. We have one north of San Antonio in a town called Wimberley, Texas, around Austin area. We have another camp in Sonora, Texas, which is West Texas. And then we have 2 in San Antonio and 2 in our down by the border, one in Brownsville and one in Farr. With that, you're able to see that we operate in very different communities, but we do have our model, which is 6 weeks. We've determined 6 weeks is the best time for our kiddos, for our staff, to make sure that there's learning happening, but we also think about, staff burnout that can happen in our summers. We operate Monday to Thursday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., and we do provide breakfast, lunch, and a snack every day that our kids are in program. Each site will enroll at least 110 youth. We focus on a 75% attendance ratio. Most of our sites will service elementary and or middle school, and our San Antonio main campus will service high school as well. And we do this through the theme-based programming. So staff training, one thing that is very important and that is so crucial to Camp Good Sam is, of course, staff. In the summer, we will have around 70 to 75 staff. 30 of those staff are year-round that either do after-school program or college programs, in-school service programs. We have about 40 seasonal staff, and as well, we also have interns in work study. Sometimes people want to know what's our breakdown. That's our breakdown. And so what we do is we make sure that our staff is trained, but that us as managers and coordinators are prepared. We go by our summer starts in September. Our planning guide that NSLA has put out, we've determined that that's the best tool to implement our summer program. So in the fall, me as a manager, I would go into program planning. We'll look at what book themes we have. So just an example of what we have. We'll do some of our summer camps based on the Harry Potter series, Fablehaven, Land of Stories, Percy Jackson, Sisters Grimm, and the newest series that we have is A Wrinkle in Time. The reason we pick book series is because kids can continue reading in the summer. And so what we do is I will determine what series worked, what series maybe are not the best for our age groups, and then I will read the series and then see how we can we make a summer camp out of this. Our staff, all of our staff will read the first book of each series, and sometimes the books are so engaging that the staff will continue reading on their own. That's a requirement. Reading we're literacy themed camp, so we need to make sure that our staff are doing the same. And as you've been seeing on our chart, you can see when we start doing our site coordinator hiring. In January, we'll have a kickoff weekend for our staff where we have training. Then we'll bring them back during spring break with the data clerk. And then we will, all of our staff from all of the sites will come to San Antonio for 3 days. This is happening actually next week. Every site will come and we'll do a big summer training before we start camp June 11th. So training is highly, highly important. A lot of it is in-house. And so, like I said, literacy is the main driver. So we want staff buy-in, and we get that buy-in with reading. So what's the literacy and curriculum development? What does that look like? How do we make this possible? So I will give you better examples so you can see what exactly how we do this. So thematic learning would determine we meet a theme. The process of using one idea to frame and connect activities for multiple subjects, areas, or disciplines. So the reason we needed the theme and we determined, hey, this is important, is to review and teach skills youth have not mastered by using experiential learning concepts. So I'm going to give you the example of our series called Land of Stories. I have created a toolkit, and what this means is I have gone through the books and seen, okay, what is one of the big ideas or learning goals that we can get out of this? So really quick, Land of Stories is a series where it's a brother and a sister, they're twins. And it's a boy-girl twin. And so their world changes because they go through some hardships or some family challenges with family dynamics, right? They lose their father and they go into this land of stories. It's a new take on Chronicles of Narnia. And so they encounter a lot of mythical creatures, fairy tale creatures. Land of Stories is where all the fairy tale characters live. Cinderella, Snow White, Little Red Riding Hood, Goldilocks, etc. And so what we do is I provide a toolkit where it has everything a site coordinator might need to implement their summer program. So I have about 6 or 7 big ideas that they can choose from. And what they will do is they will pick 3 to 4 big ideas that help you gain a deeper understanding of the content. And we want them to make sure that at the end of the summer, what can a kid identify? For example, if it's Land of Stories, can they identify the different fairy tales and the history of the fairy tales? How do fairy tales connect to culture, right? We always go back to, and also the core subject for fairy tales would be language arts. We keep your thematic unit focused, so we keep it focused with their big ideas, and then we guide learning through the program design. And so we have, when it comes to our scheduling, we have our program modules that set the structure of our program. For example, the third one down, we have something called storyboarding. In storyboarding, it is our language arts and reading and writing curriculum. So if we have a big idea for Land of Stories that might be modes of transportation. Maybe an example of that would be our participants from the 4th and 5th grade will create a story in a pilot's point of view, because that's a different mode of transportation. And if Mother Goose, who is in Land of Stories, would fly the airplane, how would that story differ? So our program modules are like our subjects. If you wanted to relate them back to school, it's like our subjects for the day. Our weekly schedules are built from our program modules, which are the guide what activities and curriculum will deliver. Not all program modules have to be used. The ones that, if we go back, if you see the ones in yellow, are optional depending on the site. And then the length of time will vary according to the program module. We do state that for every 3 hours of curriculum, there's 1 hour of recreation. It's very important that the kids are moving, and even during any time that we do curriculum, it's always hands-on. It's summer, we know that the kids want to have fun, and they don't want to be, it's not summer school. That's a big thing. So what this looks like, here, this is what will be happening in San Antonio for the Land of Stories. The first week, they'll talk about fairy tales. So in the different program modules, we'll have to tie back into the fairy tales. Our week 2 will have survival skills. They'll think about activities because in the story, Alex and Connor have to get back to the real world, and they have to figure out how to get back. They need survival skills. We'll talk about councils and assemblies, different lessons on that, modes of transportation, and then we will start over. So this will help you kind of frame it better. So we take your big idea and turn it into a question. So we have, for example, modes of transportation. The big idea statement would be the modes of movement inland, on sea, and on air impact our daily lives and have greatly advanced since their inception. So what's an essential question? What are some modes of transport we use daily, and what was their origin, right? So we think about the airplane. How did it begin? How did it, our kids should be able to answer, what are different modes of transportation? What have you explored? So maybe our different, we'll address this question in various activity modules. So maybe during social rec, the youth will create a car using scooters, right? During geek time, maybe youth will invent a robot that can transport goods. Does it look like a train? Does it look like a car? Does it look like an 18-wheeler? Is it something completely different? Something I mentioned earlier, storyboarding. Youth will create a story in a pilot's point of view. And we reinforce that during our Pathways module, right? Pathways is our college and career. Maybe we'll have a career guest speaker where a pilot will visit the youth, or the kids will take a field trip to the Air Museum. All of these are concepts that we take from the book and we bring this book to life. Not only are they reading about Mother Goose and her giant goose and her helping the Wright brothers invent the airplanes, but they're actually seeing them, they're touching them, they're smelling them. So what is another thing of implementation when I'm working with the site coordinators? We talk about how do we implement this? So our staff will go through this program planning checklist. And here on the top portion, you will see the big ideas. We think about the big ideas and what core subject do they tie to. And then kind of what we just talked about, what is the big idea statement or learning goal? And then the essential question, what should they be able to answer? A lot of our books and a lot of our themes go over special character development theme, right? That social emotional. Land of Stories talks a lot about courage, a lot about persistence. So maybe that's something that we reinforce throughout the camp. It's not a core subject, but how should we reinforce persistence? Maybe when we're creating our robot, we talk about persistence of not giving up and trial and error when we're inventing things. Also, every program should have one college tour. Our college tour can be should be tied to the book. So maybe do they have an aviation program? Are they going to visit a university that has an engineering program? We have also a career guest speaker. We should have at least one. Some sites will do one per week. Some of our sites will do 2 or 3. Some sites will have a career guest speaker fair. So it's like a college fair and a career day in one, where the career speakers have booths. Every site will do a service project as well. We're huge on our students giving back and making sure that they know that others need our help. And so this one's not particularly tied with our theme, but it is required from each site. We always have a culminating event, which is the big end of summer bash. If it's Land of Stories this year, they're having a Cinderella ball, because that's something that happens in the book. Cinderella has a giant ball, and we're going to recreate it here. And a family day. It's so important to bring in our families. We've noticed that if families If we have a family day within the first 3 weeks of program, students will, or participants will come more often because their families know what they're doing. And you'll often hear some parents say, oh, if I knew they were doing all of this, I would have brought them more. So by doing a family day within the first 2 weeks of program, we've engaged the families and we have their support, which therefore we have more attendance from our campers. As I mentioned, program culture is a huge part of our camp. And staff and youth are sorted into teams or groups to build community. Our rooms are decorated to portray story settings. Our children are recognized when they complete a book. We'll have a little bulletin board and congrats to little Johnny for completing the first book. The Evelyn who's pictured, that was a picture from when she completed the first 2 books. She ended up completing the Fablehaven series in one summer, which is 5 books. So 5 books in one summer is pretty awesome. Awards are given out to those who complete the series. And then community time is crucial to building program culture. We have a giant pep rally every day. Every site has a giant pep rally before we get the day started. And it's amazing to see the energy from staff and our youth, but it's where we have our kids buy-in and where we make them feel that they are part of something bigger and that this is a summer that they're going to enjoy and remember and learn. So what we do is we provide a theme planning guide to site coordinators. Sometimes you want to say, okay, well, how do I put all of this? This is where our staff are able to brainstorm. We ask them, what is staff going to look like? Do they have costumes? If they do have costumes, what's the costume look like? Are all the staff going to be wearing fairy wings? Are they going to be wearing ties for their house? So for Harry Potter, they wore ties depending on their house. They have a maroon tie, a green tie. Our youth, what do we call them? Do we call them demigods? Do we call them scholars? Do we call them wizards? Do we call them caretakers, depending on the theme? Environment, what do the surroundings look like? And I have examples for all of this. Recognition, what do the awards look like? Do we give house points? Do we give Narnia bucks? We used to have Chronicles of Narnia, so that was a way of recognition. What special events are we bringing on campus or going to? What are some lesson and activities ideas? Some trips, partnership symbols. This is so important because I can see where are they going with their thinking, and we can work together to develop that. And then when they're thinking about their big idea breakdown, how do you want to break down your big ideas? Are you going to do one a week? Are you going to do, how do you want to develop these big ideas? We also have our modules and curriculum. We talk about, we have different ways of doing curriculum. We have in-house made by our youth service specialists who start early and do a lot of research and tie it back to our TEKS, the Texas like Common Core. And then, or some of these provided by a partnership. So we have healthy living. Sometimes we'll team up with another partnership with Texas AgriLife Extension, and they'll provide our healthy living components. So this helps with how much curriculum is needed, what do we need to develop. We also have a giant bank of lessons from all of the other sites. So one thing I didn't mention is that our themes are recycled. So Harry Potter was in San Antonio in 2014, and then 2015 it was down in the valley in Far. Then 2016 it was in one of our other sites in, I believe, Wimberley, and then after that it went to Brownsville, and now it's back in the our second site in San Antonio. So they also have a bank of lessons that they can go through. And then we also do room assignments. In the toolkit, I do provide, and I could, if you want to know more about it, you can message me and I can kind of give you an idea what that looks like. I do room assignments. So one big thing that we like to stress is that culture of decorating our rooms. And so I want to know what you're thinking, what supplies you might need, to bring this book to life, to bring the settings, the scenes from the book. So this is an example of that theme planning guide in actual pictures. So our staff, you can see some of our staff dress up. We have one of our staff who's in Land of Stories. They bring in Wizard of Oz, so one of them has a Dorothy costume. Sometimes we ask staff to dress up as dragons, or dress up as fairies, or dress up as Dumbledore, because we want our kids to think about what the characters in the book look like. Our youth. So for Percy Jackson, we separate our kids into cabins. That's the most popular thing. They love to be part of their cabin. They will tell you, staff who work during Harry Potter here in San Antonio will still tell you what house they were in. The environment, we talked about our decorations. So that's when our site in FAR had Land of Stories. That was Cinderella's castle. Here we can see for Fablehaven, there's a fairy garden, and our staff recreated it. And then Percy Jackson, that was Poseidon's cabin. One big thing with the environment, it does take a lot of work, but you can also incorporate and get the kids to help you. Maybe you do one part of the wall and the kids are able to help you finish that wall. And that's one, it's a lesson, and two, they feel like they have that youth voice that like, hey, we can dictate what this wall looks like. It's not just made for us. Recognition. This last year we gave awards to the winning house for Fablehaven. And so we do big celebrations. Recognition is a big deal to our kiddos and our staff. Special events. In the theme of Fablehaven, there's a giant cow that when you drink the cow, it lets you see the fairy tale creatures. So one of our staff was like, how can we bring a cow to our camp? Because the kids are going to read about it. There was a giant wall with a cow, but we also brought Southwest Dairy Farmers. It was a partnership that we had, and they came out and did a presentation for our kids. And also, like we talked about, service projects. This is our Camp Good Summer in the Rio Grande Valley bar, and they planted a tree. We had people from the community, from the police department come by and help with that. And so also in the theme planning guide, we have lesson ideas. What are the actual activities that are happening? For Percy Jackson, there's a lot of clay, a lot of sculpting, a lot of architecture. For some of the, for Fablehaven, we had mythical creatures, and we talked about how do we, one of the concepts was birds, so they made bird feeders. And so everything is planned out to where it ties with the book and they're able to relate. One big thing is that the kids will read and they say, hey, we're doing this activity because Connor met a Froggy, and Froggy helped them find all of the items for the wishing spell. So they're able to tie in what we're doing to the book. Some other things. So for Harry Potter, on the picture on the left, the kids created charms books. So they thought they were making charms, but it was really exploring poetry and spells. And so it's that language arts component, but they're like, hey, we're writing charms, and they're rhyming. So it was a different take on poetry, but they absolutely loved it. And we gave, every week the instructor gave them a theme that they're going to be exploring, whether it was family, with their charms, or how to grow taller. And they made feather pens. So that was, one lesson was the feather pens during the creative minds component, and the other one was the actual charms book that they kept up with weekly, and they're presented during their family day. And then the other one was another activity, which in Fablehaven, one of the characters has to go underwater. So they did themselves going underwater and exploring, well, what are some creatures in the water? And so they inputted those as well. Our field trips, it's, like I said, and I will say this, our field trips are designed to relate to our theme. So for Percy Jackson, some of the sites that are in the valley, we're able to actually go out to the ocean and related to Poseidon. Our other component was the archery, right? Making sure it ties. And for Fablehaven, we had a lot of archaeology. So the kids went to the museum, to the archaeology exhibit, and explored that. And of course, a lot of what we do, we cannot do without partnerships. Partnerships are so vital for us. And so we're able to partner and maximize the resources. And then symbols, creating that community. This was one of the cabins, and there was their take on the lightning. Symbols are really, really important for us. And so our outcomes, what are we looking at? What are we want to achieve? So one of our biggest outcomes is average daily attendance. We want to know the percentage of youth will decrease in risk factors, the percentage that will increase in positive behaviors, and better understanding of a healthy lifestyle. We want to know the percentage of youth satisfaction who would grade the program B or higher. Youth voice. Do our kids like a program? And if they don't, why not? And what can we do to make it better? Percentage of youth indicating their desire to read has increased. We want to make sure that we are that kids are able to read and improve their relationship with reading. Sometimes we see that it's a relationship that has to be rebuilt. Percent of parents that would bring their child back, recommend program, felt activities were age appropriate and of interest, and were satisfied with overall with the program. We want to know what the parents think, and if parents want to bring their kids, we want to know why, and if they don't, we want to know why as well. And so here we have a snapshot, and we do our outcomes by site to better understand what that site is doing well, what needs to be improved, and what sites can learn from each other. I think making sure our site coordinators are able to communicate is very important in making stronger teams. And that is it. Leslie?
Thank you, Marty, for sharing all of that. It's just really great work that you're doing out there. So now we're going to have some time to answer any of the questions that you might have. If you want to go ahead and if you have a question, type that into the Q&A box. So, Marby, one of the things that struck me when I visited last year was you talked about it a little bit, your unique program culture. It was just really front and center. So can you share kind of how that strong emphasis on program culture has impacted your recruiting and retaining kids and families in your program?
Yeah, so our program culture has given Camp Good Sam an identity with our community, and our I think our kids are able to feel like I am a Camp Good Sam kid because I was part of a group. That has helped with our retention because they feel that this program was very interested in what we were doing, and it's Camp Good Time becomes another family in the summer. I feel with staff retention, it's Camp Good Sam is the program everybody loves because the community and the culture is so strong. We work really hard, all of us, and it's I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but the community and the culture is so strong that staff just want to stay in summer, and then they want to experience what the kids are experiencing, and it just they can't wait till the next summer and the next and the next. So yeah, program culture is one of those that we've worked really hard, and we've just it's been a lot of, I think one thing is that it is a lot of trial and error, but there's a lot of good things that come from it. It makes it a smoother program with behaviors, with lessons, with all of that.
You mentioned that you made this switch to emphasizing literacy a few years back. What was that transition like?
It was, well, we liked it. I think we wanted that. It was one of those. It was one of those things that we discovered that, hey, this is great. There was a lot of learning, but because planning is a huge component, and I think you guys do a really good job of telling people like summer does start in September. So making sure that you do in fact start in September and looking at that and seeing, okay, if we are going to have a theme, what is that going to be? What could be some potential things that arise? And constructive feedback is very, very important. And I think also is just try it. You're not going to know unless you try it. And so it was different because before it was more rec. It was a lot more recreational, and we did have some curriculum, but I think the theme really brought everyone together, and it gave us an identity of what was that common goal.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that it is a lot of work. What have been some of the challenges you've encountered in incorporating in pulling off this theme focus with your program?
The challenges?
Yes.
The challenges sometimes have been, so themes can sometimes be a challenge, and just finding different ways of making them interesting, right? So we used to have a theme, King Chronicles, which was amazing for our middle school kids. We have a middle school program, and some of the themes that work for them are amazing. And then when we try to replicate it with the younger kids, that's when you see, hey, the reading level is too high. Then King Chronicles came up with like a comic book. It was the same thing, and that helped us. But then, because when you get into our the demographics of our camps sometimes can be a challenge because our border, like for example, our towns in the border, it's also what kids are used to. So King Chronicles had a lot of Egyptian um, concepts, which are sometimes hard for kids to imagine, right? Sometimes, like I said, our demographics, it might sometimes it's the best thing, but it's also a challenge to make sure that, hey, we're getting a full scope of learning. How are we going to make sure that everybody from every region is able to understand this theme and this concept that we're trying to portray? And um, how can we customize it to fit?
Mm-hmm. Great. So what is something that you would like to tackle next with Camp Good Sam? Are there any new plans for this summer or next year?
So one of the challenges, or one of the things that we're taking on next is bringing in a new theme, which is like we mentioned, A Wrinkle in Time. It's a series that we've been looking at it. I think with the movie coming out, I think it was a good time to bring it out. So bringing in new themes is one of the biggest challenges because you just don't know how they're going to do. It's one of those, anybody who's done teaching or work with youth knows that we have great ideas and sometimes you present them to the kids and they're like, no, we're okay. So it's one of those, like, bringing in a new theme is always a challenge. We are going to see maybe bringing in another theme in 2019. What that will be, we don't know. Definitely a literary assessment is something that we want to do next year. That's some of the things that I could say that we're looking at. And just making sure that we're always doing an awesome job.
Yes. Okay, well, I'm looking forward to about to come back out and see you guys again. But again, thank you, Marby, for sharing all of that with us today. Hopefully, the other folks are inspired by the work that you're doing, and I'm just really doing great things for helping with literacy with young kids and including that in their summer program.
Yes, we're really, really excited. But thank you so much for having us.
Okay, so I just want to close out with a couple of announcements. National Summer Learning Day is coming up July 12th. This is our National Day of Advocacy aimed at elevating the importance of keeping kids learning safe and healthy every summer. So we encourage all programs, communities to hold an event on Summer Learning Day or really any time during the summer to bring awareness to summer, invite your parents, local elected officials, media. So we have lots of really great resources that are coming out for Summer Learning Day and leading up to Summer Learning Day. So we invite you to check that out on our website and the Summer Learning Day page. And also if you have a summer event or a program during the summer, to add that to our event tracker on our website. Also, a national conference is happening again this year in November, November 12th to the 14th in Kansas City, Missouri. So we invite you to come join us there. Join us and your peers there in Kansas City. Registration is up on our website, and our early bird rate of $425 ends on May 31st, so this week. And if you aren't a part of our Common Ground group, I invite you to join us around the campfire, and you can join one of our 4 groups, Early Literacy, Older Youth, Community System Building, or Policy on our website. Just look for in the Understand section, there's Common Ground page. And finally, if you're not following us already on social media, it's the best way to keep in touch with us and hear the latest updates and announcements. So follow us on Twitter or like us on our Facebook page. Thank you again for joining us today. We look forward to talking to you again soon. Thank you.